Hello everybody, I'm Chris Provost, and this is probably going to be one of the most difficult videos I've ever made. Before you, I just want to say, I'm just reporting information and the news of what's going on. I'm not trying to slant one way or the other. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm trying to be as objective as I can. And so, because I know sometimes I do these videos, people come at me in the comments are so angry at me. I have nothing to do with what's going on. I'm just reporting to you guys and trying to break down one of the most complex things and make it kind of put a little bite-sized morsel so we can understand what's going on. But besides that, hey, hit the subscribe button, the like button, because we do have some fun videos coming up in the future. I want to talk about what just happened in Florida with Reedy Creek. Governor Ron DeSantis today signed a bill kind of dissolving the Reedy Creek so that Walt Disney World is no longer in control of that. What is it? What's going on? How did this happen? What does this mean for the future? Let's break it down step by step and tell you what's going on. So what happened was one of the biggest things that Walt Disney regretted when he started Disneyland is he didn't have enough money. They only had enough money to buy the property of Disney. He bought the property for Disneyland. He couldn't even have enough money to do the Disneyland Hotel. That was actually bought by a third party and did at the time. And so all the land that went around Disneyland was developed by other developers. And Disney always regretted that. It's like, I wish I could have had more money to buy that land so we could have developed it. But they didn't have that at the time. Now, because of that, when they decided to do Walt Disney World in Florida, they were sneakily buying all this property a little bit at a time, so that way people didn't realize what was going on because they knew that once word got out that what they're doing, everything tried to buy the property so that they could be close to Walt Disney World. They're buying his property. Walt Disney had proposed a thing called Epcot, and Epcot was called the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. And he wanted to build this city, this futuristic city that had like tremendous growth possibilities, that was environmentally friendly, that had like education and all this. And it was gonna be called Epcot. But they knew that there's gonna be a lot of like red tape and bureaucrats and they have to go through to build this city. So Florida at that time in 1967, they gave the Walt Disney Corporation the Reedy Creek development. And what it was basically is they said, okay, this whole part of this area of Florida, this parcel land is under the control of Walt Disney World Corporation. You guys are in control of it. So that meant that Disney didn't have to go through government standards like when they build buildings and have them come in and look at it. Disney had to do their own standards. They had their own as far as like fire department and the police fighting. They also had like really the biggest thing was they had self-appointed leadership, that the state of Florida couldn't appoint any leaders to be over this area. Disney could only appoint their leaders who they wanted on this Reedy Creek board. And so, of course, they appointed people from within their company to support their goals and the things that they wanted to accomplish. And they also received special tax statuses for this. This was done in 1967 and has been in place until today. Today, it was changed. Now, why did it change? What's going on? Now, I need you to be aware that Universal Studios, Orlando, and like SeaWorld, they don't have like their own governing board or thing like this. This is something done specifically just for Disney and it's been operating for a long time. I think it would have gone a lot longer, but here's what happened. A House bill was presented in Florida legislation that was very polarizing. And the name of the bill was Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. Then it was renamed the Parental Rights and Education Act, but the media named it the Don't Say Gay Bill. And this caused a huge political firestorm. It was very polarizing. People are very angry about what's going on. And a lot of misinformation was being fed to people by media outlets. So people are getting spun up and spun down by all these things that was some bad information. During this time, people, what do they do when they're so upset? And I think a lot of them didn't understand they're getting spun up by the media. They turn to Disney, which I think was a weird thing to do, but they did. They turned to Disney. They're like, Disney Corporation, what are you going to do? Help us with this. Help us with this legislation. And this time, Bob Chapek was brand newly appointed as the CEO of Disney. And I just don't know. I think this was a massive firestorm, and I don't think he was prepared or had the business acumen to handle what was going on. Now, According to Governor DeSantis, this next thing happened. Now, keep in mind, this is according to the governor, so we have to take his word for it. And it's going to be coming out conveniently when he signed this bill. He talked about his book coming out next week, which is said to be this book, and this chapter is already released. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. But in like chapter 3, he claims, this is his claims, he claims that Bob Chapek had called him and says, hey, what's going on here? I'm getting so much pressure from the public about this bill that you have coming out. What is going on? And Governor DeSantis says, do nothing. You don't have to worry about this. This isn't going to affect anything. Don't worry about it. You're going to go through this little thunderstorm, firestorm for 48 hours, and then it will die down, and people will see the good of the bill, and that's that. And I think that Governor DeSantis got the phone call thinking that's what Bob Chapek was going to do, but he didn't. What Bob Chapek did is he then presented a statement kind of condemning the bill. Now, the bill was later renamed. It was renamed to the Parental Rights in Education. It's also known as the Florida House Bill 1557. And Bob Chapek, when he addressed it, I think a lot of people thought he was virtue signaling, that he was just trying to cast the widest net possible, saying, hey, and trying to appease to everybody, but didn't really stand up for anybody. And it was confusing to people who were in support of the bill, who were people who were against the bill. They're like, because he was just saying Disney's for everybody and we support all families. And it was a very confusing thing. And Disney they did get involved in this political firestorm that was going on. Now this is where we have to speculate a little bit. I think what happened is I think that upset Governor DeSantis a lot. I think he felt betrayed, and I think upset. Because then immediately after that, Governor DeSantis says, hey, we're going to dissolve Reedy Creek. This whole thing that was developed, we're going to dissolve it. Disney, you don't get this. You can't have this anymore. And that's what he came out and said. But he backpedaled from that. People realize that you're going to hear a lot of misinformation. I need you to be aware of this. A lot of misinformation is going to be coming on tweets. A lot of misinformation will be coming on news stories. And you're going to hear people saying that, oh my gosh, now that this has happened, that the Florida's residents are required for taxes and all this stuff. Let's give you the correct information. If Governor DeSantis really had dissolved Reedy Creek completely, then yes, then the Florida citizens, they would have to be paying all the taxes for Disney, and it would have been about $1 billion, and it would have pretty much saddled everybody with this huge debt. But he didn't dissolve it. He has changed it. And what he did is, I have all my notes written down, guys, because this gets so complicated. I had to write down all my notes here. He changed it. And so now it's called the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. So Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. So they basically renamed Reedy Creek to the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. And they made it that Disney can no longer self-appoint the governing board of this district. Now it's the governor of Florida. He or she will be able to appoint who sits on the board. And that's exactly what Governor DeSantis did. He appointed 5 people. They're sitting on the board. They are not affiliated with Disney in any way, shape, or form. And they are in charge of this new, got to get used to saying that, Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which is in charge of all of the Disney area. It's basically Reedy Creek, but now it's got 5 people who are not in charge, not reporting Disney, are in charge of the district. The things are, a lot of it is going to say exactly the same. As far as the taxing, that Disney still has to pay their share of taxes. It's not going to fall down to the Florida residents. And people are going to be like saying, well, now Disney has to live up to the standards of like building code that everybody else does. Well, to be honest with you, Disney's building code has far exceeded what the government wants us to do. So let's just hope that they keep doing what they've always done, because it's even better than what the government requires. So I think that they're going to keep doing that. So you're going to see a lot of people kind of displaying, some people who are for it and against them, like, finally, Disney, now they have to live up to government standards. And other people are like, no, now the government's really taking over. You're going to hear both sides. I'm just telling you right now, you're going to hear both sides. And but what it's really doing is this. It's allowing the government, Florida government, to have a say and put people in, so it doesn't just 100% come down to Disney. Because the government of Florida had no say of what Disney was going to do or not going to do. Now they have a say, and they can say, hey, we're not going to do this, or yes, we're going to do this, or they kind of have to work together to accomplish all of their things. Now, I think Disney knew that this was going to happen because last month, the Reedy Creek board, what do? They approved 2 major theme park constructions and 1 small park construction that could happen within the next decade. So I think they saw this coming down there. So they just went through and they went and proposed everything that they needed. So everything was taken care of. So I think this happened. But yeah, this is exactly, it was signed today. And Governor DeSantis is touting this as a big win. A lot of other people are saying this is a loss. I am not here or there to say what it is. I think, to be honest with you, I think these were egos clashing. And I think that Governor DeSantis, maybe at first he was like, we're dissolving it. And that would have been disaster. And he didn't dissolve it. He renamed it. And now he can appoint people to be in charge of this particular district. It is interesting to note, though, that the other theme parks, Disney will now be treated just like all the other theme parks. They're not going to have this special exemption. They're not going to have this. They're going to have to go through regulations and everything that the government does, which is what they were really doing already. But that's I'm just saying this here. I'm hesitant to say this. I would like to hear your thoughts about this. But please, I want to caveat, I don't want hate speech. I don't want people saying this. I just want to hear an intelligent thought of what you think is going on and how this is going to impact Disney World in the future, if you think it is going to impact Disney World in the future. But I want you to be aware, in the next couple of weeks, you are going to see a lot of misinformation coming down on both sides. Just be aware. You were smart and you were intelligent and you can discern for yourself. All right, guys, you are the absolute best. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Chris Provost from Provost Park Pass. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I promise you, we have some fun videos coming up. It's not like this, but we only do these breaking news videos on massive breaking news stories. And if you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, that way you'll always be notified when something breaking happens. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so I had to go to the doctors and get a little IV thing. And so I'm back. I just wanted to film the very ending of this video and say this. If you feel that you must put a comment down below, all I ask is, if your comment is trying to change somebody else's mind, then delete it. If your comment is telling somebody that they're wrong or whatever, then delete it. Or if your comment is making fun of another person, then delete it. But if your comment is telling me how I can do, that if I had some misinformation or how I can report better, I like that. And just back it up with the real facts and say, Chris, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention this, but give me sources so I can see where to come from. You guys, I want you to know this. I think every one of you is awesome. You all are awesome. You all are awesome. You are amazing. And tomorrow's video, I'm going to be walking around Disneyland and telling some really bad puns and having some really fun times down there. So hit the notification bell and let's have fun in tomorrow's video. All right, I'll talk to you later. Don't forget how amazing you are. You are awesome.